Close your eyes and imagine dinner at your grandparents' house. The kitchen is warm, the smell of something hearty fills the air, and the table is set with simple but comforting food. Back then, meals were not about fancy ingredients or fast food. They were about stretching what you had, feeding the family, and making every bite count. Tonight, we are traveling back in time to rediscover 20 dinners our grandparents cooked. Some are rich in tradition, some were born out of hard times, and some are simply forgotten classics. From meatloaf to chicken and dumplings, these meals tell the story of resilience, resourcefulness, and love served on a plate. 1. Meatloaf, perhaps no dish, says grandparents' dinner quite like meatloaf. Ground beef mixed with breadcrumbs, onions, and eggs, baked into a loaf and glazed with ketchup or tomato sauce. For grandparents raising families during lean years, meatloaf stretched a small amount of meat to feed many mouths. It was filling, affordable, and leftovers made great sandwiches the next day. The smell of meatloaf baking is the smell of home. 2. Chicken and dumplings, a true comfort food. Chicken and dumplings combine tender stewed chicken with soft, pillowy dumplings cooked in rich broth. It was often a weekend meal simmering slowly on the stove while families gathered. The dish made use of inexpensive cuts of chicken, turning them into something hearty and heartwarming. 3. Pot roast with vegetables. Few dinners carried the same weight as a Sunday pot roast. A cut of beef, slowly braised with carrots, potatoes, and onions until fork tender, was a centerpiece meal. Our grandparents often cooked it in cast iron Dutch ovens, filling the house with an aroma that promised comfort. Pot roast was not fast. It was a ritual of patience and love. 4. Goulash. American goulash was a staple in many households. Elbow macaroni, ground beef, onions, and tomato sauce came together in a simple one-pot meal. Cheap, easy to make, and endlessly adaptable, goulash filled bellies on weeknights. For kids, it was warm, cheesy, and satisfying dish that tasted like childhood. 5. Cabbage rolls. Stuffed cabbage rolls were a dinner carried over from European immigrant traditions. Leaves of boiled cabbage were filled with rice, ground meat, and seasonings, then baked in tomato sauce. This dish was labor-intensive, but it fed many, and its hearty flavors made it worth the effort. For grandparents, cabbage rolls were a way to keep old country traditions alive. 6. Shepherd's pie. Our grandparents often turned leftovers into something special, and shepherd's pie was a perfect example. Ground meat and vegetables topped with creamy mashed potatoes and baked until golden. It was the ultimate thrifty meal, transforming scraps into a comforting casserole. Each spoonful combined rich meat, sweet vegetables, and fluffy potatoes in perfect balance. 7. Navy bean soup with ham. Beans were cheap and filling, and a leftover ham bone could turn a simple pot of beans into a flavorful dinner. Navy bean soup simmered for hours, thickening into a creamy broth rich with smoky ham. Paired with cornbread, this meal was economical and nourishing, a true staple during hard times. 8. Salmon patties. Canned salmon was inexpensive and widely available, so salmon patties appeared on dinner tables often. It's mixed with breadcrumbs, onions, and egg, then pan-fried until crisp. These patties were served with potatoes or vegetables. They may have been born out of necessity, but too many, they became a beloved family favorite. 9. Pork chops with apples. A classic dinner that combined savory and sweet. Pork chops were pan-fried and served with stewed apples or applesauce. This pairing reflected old European traditions brought to America, and it was a way of balancing hearty protein with the sweetness of orchard fruit. 10. Chicken fried steak with gravy. In many southern households, chicken fried steak was a special dinner. Tenderized beef coated in seasoned flour, fried golden, and topped with creamy white gravy. Paired with mashed potatoes and green beans, it was indulgent comfort food. Grandparents knew how to turn inexpensive cuts of beef into something extraordinary. 11. Liver and onions. Not every dinner was a crowd pleaser, but liver and onions was common because organ meats were affordable and nutritious. Pan-fried liver served with caramelized onions and gravy was a strong-tasting dish that many kids disliked, but it sustained families who could not afford prime cuts of meat. 12. Tuna noodle casserole. Casseroles defined mid-century dinners, and tuna noodle casserole was the king. Canned tuna, egg noodles, cream of mushroom soup, and breadcrumbs baked into a golden, bubbly dish. It was affordable, filling, and often topped with crushed potato chips for extra crunch. 13. Chicken pot pie, a flaky crust filled with chicken gravy. And vegetables. This dinner was both practical and luxurious. Homemade chicken pot pie took time and skill, but it stretched small amounts of meat and vegetables into a satisfying meal. For grandparents, it was often reserved for weekends or holidays when there was time to bake. 14. Sloppy Joes. Sweet and tangy ground beef served on hamburger buns became a weeknight classic. Sloppy Joes were messy, fun, and inexpensive. They reflected the rise of convenience cooking, with ketchup or canned sauces making the recipe faster. To kids, it was a meal that felt exciting compared to traditional dinners. 15. Stuffed peppers. Green bell peppers stuffed with a mixture of rice, meat, and tomato sauce made a colorful and hearty dinner. Stuffed peppers showcased frugality and creativity, using affordable ingredients to make a dish that looked and tasted impressive. Many grandparents took pride in serving them. 16. Fried chicken. Before fast food chains, fried chicken was a homemade affair. Grandparents seasoned the chicken, dredged it in flour, and fried it slowly in cast iron until golden and crispy. Served with mashed potatoes, gravy, and biscuits, it was a meal of celebration. The crunch, the juiciness, the aroma. Fried chicken was a masterpiece of home cooking. 17. Spaghetti with meat sauce. Italian immigrants popularized spaghetti, and by the mid-20th century, it was a dinner table regular. Ground beef simmered in tomato sauce poured over spaghetti noodles made a filling and comforting family meal. Garlic bread on the side completed the picture. 18. Macaroni and cheese. Homemade. Long before boxed mac and cheese, our grandparents baked it from scratch. Elbow macaroni mixed with cheese sauce, topped with breadcrumbs and baked until golden. It was simple, but rich. A dinner that made everyone at the table happy. 19. Stew with biscuits. Thick, hearty stew with beef, carrots, and potatoes was often served with homemade biscuits for dunking. Stew made use of tougher cuts of meat that became tender after long cooking. On cold nights, it was the kind of meal that warmed you from the inside out. 20. Baked ham with pineapple. For holidays or special Sundays, baked ham glazed with brown sugar and decorated with pineapple slices was a showstopper. It was sweet, savory, and celebratory. Leftover ham provided sandwiches and soups throughout the week, making it both practical and festive. The meaning of dinner in our grandparents' era. For our grandparents, dinner was more than just food. It was the heartbeat of family life. Meals were not rushed. There were moments of gathering, of conversation, of gratitude for what was on the table. Ingredients were simple, portions were generous, and nothing went to waste. These 20 dinners remind us of a time when food was tied to memory, community, and survival. They were not just recipes. They were traditions. So there you have it. 20 dinners our grandparents cooked. Some were comforting classics we still enjoy today, while others have faded into memory. Each dish tells a story of resilience, creativity, and love. Which of these dinners do you remember from your grandparents' kitchen? And which one would you like to see make a comeback at your table? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And do not forget to like, subscribe, and join me again as we bring the flavors of the past back to life, one dish at a time.